I think what's going to happen, and maybe we'll never be able to measure it, but I think that there's going to be a systems innovation surge. And when I say systems, I mean the system of how do you travel to work, the system of how do you go to school, the system of the workplace, how do you organize it and everything like that. So I think people are going to fundamentally rethink all of our systems. And as you know, I'm the biggest proponent of making sure you've got good systems. And it could be really gigantic in terms of its long-term impact. Simply the fact that our creativity was challenged in this concentrated way. My prediction is that the biggest industry in the future, the one with the most dollar amount, will be online education. I think the biggest thing that will change online education is the first time somebody does it right. In my opinion, it's never been done right. And I think that the president referred to this, but I'm going to take it a level deeper, which is we've never had a time in our history where so many of us took a time out and just stopped working and sort of had time to think about things. Now you think to yourself, well, that's not a big deal. I mean, we often take vacations and we take the weekend off. It's not that big a deal that we have time to think about things. But here's what's different. Because of the restrictions placed on all of our lives and the economic impact, etc., almost everybody had to rethink from the ground up everything they do. You had to rethink how you eat, how do you get food, you had to rethink your social life, you had to rethink travel, you had to rethink cleaning, you had to rethink shipping, you had to rethink your job and every part of your job, you had to think education, family structure, who's babysitting, all of it had to be rethought. Now here's my positive spin on this. I think that process makes people realize there's just a ton of stuff that needs to be better. From, how many people realized that they could get more work done by not commuting? Just to pick one simple example. And I've got a feeling that people saw different ways to do things. They saw red tape being cut. They saw people doing things faster than they thought. They saw innovation. They saw people stepping up. And everybody had to rethink from scratch, how can I do this job I had been doing? What's the smarter way to do this now that meets all these different requirements? And I think what's going to happen, and maybe we'll never be able to measure it, but I think that there's going to be a systems innovation surge. And when I say systems, I mean the system of how do you travel to work, the system of how do you go to school, the system of the workplace, how do you organize it and everything like that. So I think people are going to fundamentally rethink all of our systems. And as you know, I'm the biggest proponent of making sure you've got good systems. And it could be really gigantic in terms of its long-term impact. Simply the fact that our creativity was challenged in this concentrated way. So it'll take a while for those benefits to work their way through the system, but I think they could be really big. I was trying to think of all the things that will be different after we get back to work. Certainly the work-at-home thing. I think the argument for self-driving cars just got way stronger. As I often say, persuasion is not just about how good your argument is, it's also about getting people's attention. So the things that people think about the most, they irrationally think are the important things because they're thinking about it. So if you can make somebody think about something a lot, it will become important to them when it wasn't before. So here's my point on that. Because a lot of attention will be put on the natural death rate of driving, only because we have this weird experiment when people stop driving for a while. So you can actually really see in concrete terms how many people did not die because we weren't all in traffic. And I think what that's going to do is it's going to push people toward thinking, wait a minute, we saved, I'm going to pick a number, I don't know what the real number is, people are going to say, are you telling me we saved 25,000 lives by not driving? And that we could bank that savings and always save 25,000 lives, or for the full year, maybe it's 50,000. Could we save 50,000 lives a year just by having self-driving cars that would almost never crash? I mean, if you did it right, they would never crash. So I think that self-driving cars just went from, something you'd like someday to, my God, why don't we hurry up on this? Because you can save 50,000 lives a year. That's as much as we close down the entire economy for. I think contact tracing is going to be a thing. Did you see the story that I guess Apple and Google have decided to release, I don't know, some standards, technical standards or an API or something, but the idea is that they're making it possible to build apps where you can tell if you've been near somebody. So let's say you were diagnosed with having coronavirus. You could, with a few pushes of whatever buttons on your app, and maybe you don't have to allow it. I don't know if you have to give permission or the government is just going to do it. At some point you have to give permission. So maybe you give permission, from the outset before you've been diagnosed, so that your Bluetooth is telling you who you're bumping into all day, who also has their Bluetooth on. So the idea is that you could look at the digital trail and send people a text and say, hey, you stood within 4 feet of this person who has coronavirus. Go get it checked. Or something like that. That could be huge. If you were going to make a short list of all the things that could get you back to work, well, one of them would be widespread testing, which we can't do yet, but maybe in a few weeks. The other would be magic, of course, which doesn't exist. So that would be great. And then we have this new thing, which is these apps that will do the Bluetooth contact things, which doesn't exist. But one imagines that in a month or so, maybe, we could have something like that working. But all of those, and maybe the hydroxychloroquine makes a difference. Maybe genetic testing will tell us something. So we probably have 4 different ways that we could attack the virus. So I think we'll get there. I think education online will change completely. I think the biggest thing that will change online education is the first time somebody does it right. In my opinion, it's never been done right. Now, it's not like I've seen every online course, but nothing I've seen. And what I mean by doing it right is somebody that takes like a Hollywood movie kind of a model, and they hire somebody who's just good on camera, looks good, talks well, somebody to write the script, somebody to do the graphics, somebody to direct it. So you've got like a real movie production, but it's just a college course or a class. And once it's done right, and especially you would also do a lot of A/B testing, so you might test it out with small crowds before you finalized it, to make sure that you're saying things clearly, etc. So to basically produce a class the way manufacturers produce any other product, which is it goes through testing and research and polling. You've got a team of experts coming together. It's a long-term project. Right now we just point a camera at somebody who knows how to teach and they just teach. But as soon as somebody does it right the first time, it's going to turn into a real business. And it might be, I would argue, all right, here's another prediction. I will argue that the biggest business of the future will be online training. Yeah? How do you like that prediction? I'll say it again, just so there's no confusion. My prediction is that the biggest industry in the future, the one with the most dollar amount, will be online education. Because the courses are going to be, colleges will eventually have to disappear because they don't really make sense. For the price for what you're getting, they just don't make any sense. So I think regular colleges will, start to fade away. Online education will grow and just keep getting better. And I think that when people are producing, imagine what you would pay. Just think about this. Imagine what you would pay to have a course that you needed. Let's say you needed it for your job or it was part of a degree program. But you could take the course that was as fun as watching, I don't know, the best movie you've watched. Like, it's just really entertaining, but you're also learning it at the same time. How much extra would you pay for that versus the boring one that makes you want to, take your brain out with a spoon? Well, you would pay a lot for that. Not everybody, but there would be enough people with money who would pay a lot for that training that's a little bit better. And I think eventually the transmission of information and training will be the biggest market in the world. That's what I think.